All right, are we good? Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Live. We are back with the only WSL game this weekend as Aston Villa host Arsenal. It's our only WSL match of this game, a game rearranged from earlier in the season when Arsenal had various games rearranged for Champions League, for FIFA Champions Cup and for a postponed game as well. So there's been lots of games that Arsenal have to fit into this packed out schedule, and so they've had a lot of football recently. But today they've travelled to Aston Villa's last home game of the campaign, and a really important one really for both sides. Aston Villa today could end up climbing above Everton. A loss though would leave them vulnerable to West Ham jumping above them, and it's been poor form for Aston Villa. Only Leicester with 0 picked up less points than Villa in 2026, so to jump up that level and to perform today against an Arsenal side who still have something to play for is going to be a big ask. But it should be a good game nonetheless. Of course, these two sides met in May last year, and that was when Arsenal were resting a lot for their Champions League final, and Villa got a big result then. So potentially, they could be looking at that as a source of belief today. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the two sides play out. Arsenal coming off the back of a tricky game away at Brighton. I think it was a really good performance from Brighton, a really poor performance from Arsenal, and also the Lyonnais game last Saturday where they were comfortably beaten by a better side. But this is a different kettle of fish. It's a side who aren't in great form, or those two sides have been in really good form. And so this should be easier today for Arsenal to get 3 points, get themselves in a winning position. Of course, they are 4 points behind Chelsea with 2 games in hand. They can't really afford then to drop any points between now and the end of the season if they want to finish second. They only need 2 points to confirm Champions League football for next season. And so a draw today would pretty much put them there. They would have to do incredibly well to not pick up a point in the games against Everton and Liverpool to finish the season. So they're going to be in a decent position, but Arsenal will want to finish strong. They'll want to pick up some big results. They'll want to qualify automatically for the Champions League rather than going through the playoffs. And they want to make it look that they were at least in touching distance of Manchester City. They drop a few points at the end of the season here. It's going to be a big gap to City, and it looks like a very comprehensive season. And while Arsenal were never really there in the title race, they'll want to put themselves in a position where it looks close and they can go into next season with the belief that maybe they can bridge that points gap and become WSL champions for the first time since 2019. As I say though, Villa are going to be interesting to watch today, and with that said, let's get into the lineup. We are at Villa Park. The last time these two sides met at Villa Park, it was a 5-2 win for Aston Villa. They'll be hoping Aston Villa only picked up 7 points in 2026. They can do something like that today. It looks like a 4-2-3-1 on paper for Aston Villa in this game. In goal, former Arsenal goalkeeper Sabrine D'Angelo has announced this week she will depart Aston Villa in the summer upon the expiration of her contract. In the back four then, right back Noel Moritz, also former Arsenal, a centre-half partnership of Miri Taylor, usually midfielder, alongside Ocean De Landes, and Maltby in at left back. In the midfield, it's a pivot of Kendall and Jean-Francois, with Rachel Daly playing in the 10 role, and then some sort of attacking configuration of Hijikata Salmon and Kirsty Hansen. This will be really interesting to see what this Villa side look like today. Now, I'd imagine it could be Hijikata in sort of a wing-back role on that right-hand side, then more of a front pair of Salmon and Hansen. But Salmon really struggled in particular in their last outing. They had so many chances against West Ham, particularly Salmon and Hijikata as well. So many chances in front of goal, but they just couldn't take them. And ultimately then West Ham were able to find their way back into the game and won that 2-0. Villa really should have won that match. So they'll be really keen, Aston Villa, to actually get some points. I think a big problem for Villa this season has been they've actually performed a bit better than I think the table suggests at times. But there's been too many defensive mistakes. There have been too many missed opportunities in the attacking third as well. They keep missing glorious chances, really. And that's something that I think has to be fixed for next season. It's part of the reason for me that they are letting all of their strikers leave on a free deal, and then they can go out and sign some new players. I think that's probably the justification there. But other than that, it's a very makeshift defence, and that's going to make life difficult. We think back to the game earlier in the season, the 1-1 draw at the Emirates. A big part of Aston Villa's performance in that game was their defensive line, but I believe that day they lined up with Patton, Parker and De Landes in the back three. Patton not available, Parker not available either. It's going to be a bit of a makeshift back three then, likely of Moritz, Taylor and De Landes. So it's going to be difficult today, but it's also not a full-strength Arsenal side. It's It's something they can really take advantage of, Aston Villa, if they're on their game. But the problem is they haven't really done that enough this season. They haven't been on their game enough. They've had some good performances. They did well against Manchester City, but then they also got tanked against Manchester City. So it's been really up and down. In both their games against Chelsea, I thought they played quite well, but they also lost them. And they've found points really hard to come by, particularly in the second half of this season. So yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. It's difficult to see Aston Villa getting a result today, but it's also the kind of game they could get a result in. It's that weird juxtaposition where they're the kind of side, Aston Villa, who can show up today and pull something off, but they haven't been playing particularly well recently. Isabella, welcome to the stream. We're asking, where can we watch this internationally? I've looked for it on YouTube, but can't find it on the WSL or Sky Sports channels. No, it's not available on YouTube unless you're in a specific international country. Most countries have a dedicated broadcaster, though, and so in the UK, it's on Sky Sports. Outside the UK, it depends which country you are in. But for most of the bigger countries, they're going to have a broadcaster, but there are a lot of countries, so if you've got a VPN, you can watch it on YouTube. Jeremy, welcome to the stream as well. So looking forward to this game. I wonder what Villa can do today. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think they've got to mirror how they set up at the Emirates. Very defensive, look to counter very effectively. And that's kind of been their setup all season, but they've bled goals, Aston Villa, this season. That's been a big problem. And I know they had mitigating circumstance in the fact that a lot of those goals were conceded across 2 games against Tottenham and Man City. But they've still conceded the second most in the league this season. And they've not scored really enough for me to justify that. They've outscored a lot of the teams near the bottom, but then they've conceded a lot more than the teams around them. So I think that's been a bit of an issue this season. Last season, they were quite a good defensive team who struggle in front of goal. This season, I still think they've not done particularly well in front of goal. Kirsty Hansen, though, has been incredible. If they are to get something against Arsenal today, you would think Kirsty Hansen would have to be involved in that. Let's take a look then at the side for the visitors. It's a 4-2-3-1 for Arsenal today. FOTMOB has it as a 5-3-2. I don't think that's going to be how they line up. In goal, it's Anna Kaborba. A back 4 then of Fox, Wubbenmoy, Cadena and Hines. In the midfield, it's a pivot of Little alongside Caldente. On one wing, Holmberg. On the left wing, it's Olivia Smith. In the 10 role, Frida Marnham. And leading the line, Alessia Russo. I think this is a much stronger side than the one they listed against Brighton. Obviously, not too many changes, but I do think bringing Caldente back into the starting lineup is a huge positive. Fox coming back in as well, I think, is a huge positive. Ford coming out of the side, I think, is a huge positive. They've got players on there that can really provide threat. I think one of the biggest things they lacked against Brighton was those difference makers. It's the same sort of thing they didn't really have against Lyonnais. But for me, Arsenal's biggest difference makers are Caldente and Smith. And in the Brighton game, they didn't start Caldente and they played Smith on the right. And in the Lyonnais game, they played Smith on the right again and she couldn't do anything against Batcher. And Caldente really struggled with the pressure in midfield. Today, though, I think those 2 players will make a much bigger difference. I think on the left-hand side, there's going to be a little bit more space to work with there for Smith. And I think she can absolutely exploit that if they can get her on the ball. And for Caldente, I don't think there'll be that same sort of pressure in midfield. So if she's given that license to get forward and be creative, I think she can have a huge impact on this game. So they're the 2 for me that I think are the ones to watch. I think those 2 will have a big impact in this game. Russo and Marnham, it didn't click in the first half at all against Brighton, but they combined really nicely for Marnham's goal. If they can replicate that kind of move more often where Russo's able to drop to receive the ball and they've got that instinctive understanding where Marnham then pushes up into the vacated space and they can combine and break into an attacking area. Now, that was a really nice move. Russo dropped in, pulled the pressure of Caitlin Hayes, I believe, was tracking her, and then was able to break away from her and knock the ball in behind for Marnham, who was then one-on-one with the keeper. That's the kind of thing they've got to execute today. Those 2 players linked up very nicely in that move, but they didn't do it enough in that game. And so I think that's where that consistency's got to come from between those 2 players, that relationship between Marnham and Russo. But yeah, so that's what they'll try and build on today. In the back 4, my concerns are always going to be on the left-hand side of that defence. I think Cadena's really struggled this season. We know Hines is a player who likes to get high. If we look back at that Brighton game, they did have a lot of joy down both flanks, to be fair, but particularly down Arsenal's left-hand side or Brighton's right-hand side. So that's something I think they'll look to target again. I think that's something that Villa should be looking to target today. They're going to look to be direct in behind. I think, again, that makes sense. The Arsenal high line Arsenal do play quite a high line. And when we think about the players that are in there, if it was a Williamson or Catley, or even a Williamson or Wubben-Moy, you think, oh, they've got the pace there to get back in, they've got the understanding. And we saw against Lyonnaise where Williamson was able to jump up and Wubben-Moy would cover her. We often see it with Williamson jumping up and Catley covering her. But when it's Wubben-Moy and Cadena, there isn't that same trust. There isn't that same understanding between the two players. And I don't think either of them are particularly good at jumping up. Wubben-Moy's better than Cadena, but if Wubben-Moy jumps up, Cadena's not going to cover her. So they do perhaps lack that aggression. They can often get out-battled in there. And I think, obviously, Aston Villa playing Rachel Daly today, likely to be in a midfield role, but she's going to push forward and try and contest those aerials. And she's going to get the better in the air of Little and Caldente. So it's important that Arsenal can step up onto her. And I don't know who in that back line is going to take control and lead that kind of role. But yeah, it is going to be, likely Rachel Daly's last game at Villa Park. A few players in the team will have their last game at Villa Park today. Salmon, D'Angelo. They've obviously announced a couple players moving on. Gabby Nunes, if she gets off the bench as well. But a big occasion then. Potentially that means they can turn up in this huge game against Arsenal. Well, let's dive into our scoreline predictions then as the players make their way out of the tunnel. If you're watching along to the show, get involved in the live chat and let us know your scoreline predictions. I don't have Harry to turn to, so I'm going to get started with my prediction for this game. Yeah, I'm not sure on this one. I think it's going to be interesting. A nice moment as well here, I should say, for Aston Villa. Lucy Staniforth, who announced her retirement from football at the end of the season this week, getting a clap onto the field, getting a guard of honour as she enters the pitch here at Villa Park. Obviously doesn't start in today's game, but we could well see her off the bench for her last Villa Park appearance. Lovely touch here from the Aston Villa team, and she will be awarded and honoured here for her contributions with a shirt and her family getting a photo. Lovely to see for Lucy Staniforth. As for predictions, though, I do like to go against the grain, but I just don't see it at the moment, to be honest, with Aston Villa. I think their form this year has been so poor. Even in games recently where they've performed well against weaker opposition, they haven't taken those chances. A lot of the goal-scoring burden is going to fall on Kirsty Hansen, as it usually does. And I'm just not 100% sure they're going to get much from today. I think Arsenal will be up for it. Villa don't have much to play for compared to Arsenal, who I think there will be that aspiration to finish second. I think while it doesn't matter much in terms of the fact that whether they finish second or third, they're going to be in the Champions League. I think they'll want to finish second. They'll want to get automatic qualification. And they'll want to put themselves in a position where they're finishing second multiple seasons and they're building that sort of title charge as we go into next season. So I'm going to say Arsenal to win this game. I do think it'll be tight though. I'm going to say Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2. I think it's going to be a close game, but I just think Arsenal have the quality there to edge it. So I'm going to say an Olivia Smith goal for Arsenal. Villa will peg them back from a corner, I reckon. I'm going to go for Noel Moritz, like a former player scoring in these kind of games. And for Arsenal, I will say the winner will come off the bench from Stina Blackstenius. I think there's a lot of space in behind that Villa line today. And if Arsenal are looking to target that late on, we could see Blackstenius introduced. I think she'll get the winning goal then for Arsenal. But do let me know your scoreline prediction in the chat. We'll go through all of those ahead of kickoff. And we've got a couple coming in already. Hermie saying Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2. Yeah, same prediction there. I think that's a great prediction. Belsky saying 2-1 Aston Villa. Yeah, fair enough. I could absolutely see that happening. I think if Aston Villa were in better form, I'd back them to pull off the upset today, as they did last year, as they have done against top sides in the past. But their form's been so poor recently. You know, we look at that Brighton result for Arsenal, and obviously Brighton have taken points off a few big teams recently. They beat Man City, drew with United, drew with Arsenal. They're a side in fantastic form. They're in the FA Cup semi-finals. They were playing at the top of their powers, even with a rotated side. It was expected they could get a result against Arsenal. But this Villa side just looks so downtrodden at the moment that I can't see a way past Arsenal in this game. So yeah, I'm going to back 2-1. Jeremy's saying 2-2 is my guess. I think there'll be goals at both ends. Fair enough. That would be a hell of a game. Laura going 2-0 Arsenal then. And the poll in chat is 66% in favour of Arsenal, 27% Aston Villa, and 7% going for a draw. Make sure to keep voting in that as we prepare for kickoff here at Villa Park. But yeah, should be a great game of football today. And yeah, it does feel like Arsenal carry strong favour coming into this one. But yeah, Rachel Daly, Aston Villa's record double cell scorer, making her first start today since January. It does feel a bit of a goodbye game, doesn't it, for Rachel Daly? And obviously a few players we know are saying formal goodbyes. Arsenal a little more reluctant to say goodbye to some of their players. It was expected that a few would move on this summer, but now it doesn't seem that way. It was announced in the week a U-turn potentially on releasing Katie McCabe. So we'll see what comes of that. And the same can be said as well for Caitlin Ford. So big news there coming in the week. And it'll be interesting to see what comes of those. We're about to get underway here at Villa Park for what should be a really interesting game. Yeah, I expect that Arsenal want to win this. Arsenal want to win every game, but particularly want to finish second. I don't think they'll want to be playing in the qualifiers at the start of next season. Next season has to be a big year for Arsenal, and they don't want to start that by having to qualify for the Champions League. Arsenal about to get us underway in this game. It's Rousseau from the middle, waiting for the referee's whistle. Get us started here at Villa Park. It's Aston Villa taking on Arsenal, and we're underway at Villa Park. Rousseau knocks it back, and Arsenal have possession to start. They're going to move it back here as Aston Villa put the pressure on. Fox carrying down the right-hand side. Now needs support. Looks to knock it down the line for Holmberg. Bit of a different position today for Smila Holmberg. What can she create from the right wing? Knocks the ball into the area. Great chance here. Marnham doesn't take it on her right foot there. Has to carry it backwards. Now to Fox. And Fox knocks it wide to Holmberg. Ball into the area, and it's tried to be flicked on there by Mariona Caldente. Hijikata, though, clearing the baller's way as Caldente can't quite keep it under her control. Lloyd, welcome to the stream. Says past 9,000 subscribers now. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your support, everyone. It's been a fantastic season. And, well, we had quite an ambitious goal trying to hit 10k by the end of the month. It doesn't look like we're going to do it, but every new subscriber does help us towards that 10,000 goal. So if you are new and haven't hit subscribe, make sure to do so. Arsenal playing to the left-hand side. Hines looks to go inside, plays it back to Mariona Caldente. Caldente now to Cadena. Wubben-Moy knocks it out to the right-hand side. Holmberg holding the width well. Now looks to deliver it in there. Marnham flicks it towards goal and it will drop at the back post. D'Angelo, though, sweeping up nicely and stopping Smith, getting an early shot away. We can already see Arsenal are getting the ball to the right-hand side a lot. They know the danger with crosses that Holmberg can provide. We saw it in the game against Leicester. We saw a great ball into the box against Lyonnais, which was turned home for an own goal. So she's definitely an attacking weapon, I think. There's one high here. Hijikata giving the ball away. Hines tries to feed it into Rousseau. Loose pass, though, from Taylor Hines. I saw a few Arsenal fans saying, I wonder if Holmberg will sort of be moulded into more of a right winger next season. But for me, I don't see it. I think she will still be an attacking right back. I think that role for Arsenal is a very attacking position anyway. It's more the fact they just don't have any fit wingers at the moment. Jean-Francois carrying the ball forwards. Great drive through the lines from Jean-Francois. Tries to find Kirsty Hansen. It was caught on the top of the foot there by Wubben-Moy. Pass was poor anyway. Arsenal back in possession. Cadena. Caldente's pulled into this deep left position. Now looks to slot it through the lines. It's cut out well by Moritz. Caldente returns it to Cadena. And now Little. Carrying to the right-hand side, and it's a good challenge in there from Hijikata, and a little bit unlucky there as the referee thinks she's caught Kim Little. Thought she got a decent amount on the ball, but referee seeing it otherwise. Hines into Smith. Smith back to Caldente. Wide now to Taylor Hines. Salmon narrows that angle. Smith inside to Little. Little tries to lift it over, looking for Hines, and well, I think she gave up on that a little bit too early there, Taylor Hines, but it did have a lot on that pass. And it does trickle out for an Aston Villa goal kick. Jeremy says Hijikata is a good player, but a bit accident prone. Yeah, I mean, I think just a player who has struggled a little bit with the physicality of the league. I think there's a clear technical level there with Maya Hijikata, but yeah, I think has just struggled a little bit to adjust to the physical element of the WSL. We see it quite common with players who are very technically gifted, have played in lesser leagues and then come across. Great pressure here from Smila Holmberg. Picks off that pass from D'Angelo. Now knocks to the edge of the box. Caldente, lovely pass round the corner looking for Marnham, who can't quite keep that under her control. Turned over high though by Fox. Holmberg now carrying down the right-hand side, lifts it in the box. D'Angelo clears, Rousseau scores, and it's there for Arsenal. The header towards goal, and I think it's an own goal there from Noel Moritz. But Russo did the work, put the shot on target, and Moritz can't do anything to keep it out of the net. A well-taken goal by Arsenal, a tempting ball in from Holmberg, and it's just not dealt with in there by Noel Moritz as Russo heads it towards goal. She tries to clear it up and away, clears it up into the roof of her own net. It's a good ball from Holmberg though, worked it well. D'Angelo doesn't deal. Moritz really should do better there to hook that ball away. An unfortunate own goal there for the fullback, the former Arsenal player, helping her former side out. And well, D'Angelo probably should have done a little bit better with this as well. Doesn't get enough on the push away. Falls for Alessia Russo, heads on target. And well, Noel Moritz should do a lot better. Arsenal take the lead in this game. I think that's an important settler. Well, as Aston Villa come forwards here, Hansen's in, but she's deemed to be offside. I thought immediately there, Arsenal may come undone, but the assistant referee with a let-off. I haven't seen any of that move. Might have been miles offside, might have been well onside, but Hansen there deemed offside by the lino. Cadena. Now to Caldente, carrying down the left-hand side. And she's made some good ground here, Mariona Caldente. Down the line into Hines, who looks to take on Salmon. Salmon does well and force her into running that off the pitch. Did that take a touch off Emily Salmon? I don't think so. So it will be an Aston Villa goal kick. Hermie says, is Selena Cersei one of the answers to Arsenal's attacking problems? I don't think so, to be honest. I think she's a really good player. But I think I am slightly confused at why Arsenal are signing her, if I'm honest. Because undoubted is her quality, but I'm not sure what Arsenal needs as a striker. I don't think she solves the issues, which for me are more in build-up and chance creation for Arsenal. I think they move the ball too slowly. And yeah, I mean, against sides who are poorly set up defensively, they do really well and they find lots of space. I look at that Leicester game where they move the ball really comfortably. But in games against sides who are set up well defensively, both games against United this season, the games against Brighton this season, they really struggle to break teams down. I think a lot of that is because they move the ball far too slowly. And I don't think an elite striker changes that. As good as Cersei is, and I think she'd perform just as good as a Blackstenius or Russo in that striker role. I think we could even see her play as a winger at Arsenal. But I think she's much more suited, similar to Blackstenius, to when there is space in behind. And often teams are looking to drop into a low block. So I think she's a very, very good player and could well be a good signing, but I don't think she solves the problems that Arsenal have had. Physical challenge there from Moritz on Smith. Deemed fair as they break into the penalty area, but Aston Villa turning over possession. Ball sent long, Hijikata looking to compete. Hansen nods it back to Hijikata, who squeezes her past to Kendall. Now into Jean-Francois. She's carrying to the left-hand side, shifts it back. De Landes. Now to Miri Taylor. Jeremy says a few unforced errors from Villa they need to settle. Yeah, I mean, it just looks like such a natural defence for Aston Villa. I think is where a lot of those issues are coming from. I mean, the attackers have struggled all season anyway, but you're looking at a bit of a miscommunication for me between the likes of Moritz, who hasn't played much at right back this season. You've got Taylor in there, who's naturally in midfield, and that's a poor pass from Jean-Francois, and Smith picks up on the ball. Now to Russo, to Marnham, on to Russo, great chance, and Alessia Russo scuffs the shot, and it bobbles wide, but that was a glorious opportunity for Arsenal to double their advantage. Alessia Russo will be gutted she couldn't make more of it. It's just such a casual pass there from Jean-Francois. Marnham pokes it on to Russo. Russo really should provide the finish. But yeah, just a really poor pass from Jean-Francois. Did well to get back in, but if Russo there had provided the finishing touch, not a lot Villa could have done to make up for it. De Landes delays too much on the ball, does well to squeeze it back to D'Angelo under pressure. The Canadian taking no risk as she launches the ball long. It's going to go in behind Cadena, and well, Salmon believes in it, can't quite get there though, as the Spanish centre-half pokes it back to Annika Borba. Lloyd says, hopefully Michelle Adjumang returns and returns strongly. Yeah, I mean, it won't be this season now, will it? May not even be this year. Yeah, I want to hear from Arsenal fans because we were talking about this the other day. What is the future of Michelle Adjumang? You know, will she... Because if Arsenal are signing Cersei, they've got Blackstenius, they've got Russo. That's 3 strikers ahead of her in the pecking order. They've also got Jessie Gale coming back from loan, who I think is just going to move permanently because I don't see any way that she breaks into the first team next season. Smith, ball into the area, blocked away well. And the flag, I know it has just gone off for a corner there. So Arsenal with a chance to put some pressure on Aston Villa, albeit Arsenal's record from corners this season and set pieces in general hasn't been particularly strong. But yeah, Arsenal fans, let me know, where do you think Michelle Adjumang will end up next season? I could see her having another loan move once she gets back from injury, but yeah, not 100% sure where her future lies. Arsenal now with this corner. And it's Smila Holmberg on the delivery. Looks to lift it towards the back post. That's a better ball. Russo heads across the face of goal. Smith now tries to turn it home. It bounced around the area. Can anyone in an Arsenal shirt turn it home? Not quite. And it is cleared by Aston Villa. And Russo. Well, that's a great delivery towards the back post. Marnham heads it down. Woupa Moy, Kadina. Now Marnham, Holmberg, should score. And she's just put off balance. And well, Arsenal will be wondering how on earth they've not found the back of the net there. It's so poor from Villa in their own penalty area. Cannot get a clean clearance on the ball. Russo does well to recycle it. And well, it's headed down by Marnham. Kadina leaves it. It's all a bit of a mess in there from Arsenal. No one steps up and assumes responsibility. Smith's shot should have been better. That's a crucial touch from Taylor. Holmberg, though, really should score in there. Just takes a heavy touch. Great opportunities. Just wasted there by Arsenal. Taylor, D'Angelo clearing the ball away. Hines heading it away. Moritz, though, does well. And it's brought down by Salmon. Salmon pokes it inside to Kendall. Kendall to Daly. Slides it across the left-hand side. Here's Maltby now, the youngster. Looks to find Hansen down the line. It's assertive defending from Fox, who contests well with Hansen and makes a challenge on the floor. Villa recover possession, though. Daly. Kendall. Now into Taylor. Kendall round the corner to Hijikata. Strong from Kadina. And Kendall comes in with a challenge and ends up knocking it out of play. Jamie says, looks like Villa first met each other on the pass. Doesn't look like any sort of direction in that Aston Villa side. No, it's been a messy start for Villa. And Arsenal just looking to capitalise on that disorganisation. Hines back to Kadina. So we've got a question about McCabe. We'll get to that when we have a bit of a lull in the play. Smith. Now Kadina. Slots it through into Taylor. Hines here. Looks to slide it in behind. And Russo, has she timed this one well? Essia Russo looks like she has. Now needs support. Back to Hines. Hines wriggling in the penalty area. That's a great challenge from Taylor. Knocks her off balance and wins back possession cleanly. Smith inside. A positive touch from Fox, but she's caught by Rachel Daly. And Daly will be lucky to avoid a booking here. Just catches her too late. This is brilliant from Fox. I'm really enjoying the inverted role we're seeing both fullbacks take up for Arsenal. It's something I spoke about for anyone who watched my video on what Battier will bring to Arsenal. The reason they want a right footer on the left-hand side in the form of Ona Battier is that they want their fullbacks to invert. And we're seeing it in this game really effectively. I mean, Hines can go inside or outside, and same for Fox. But we're seeing them both coming inside to overload central areas and then combine in there. And we've just seen it work really effectively where Fox darts inside, receives the ball and is able to draw the foul. And Arsenal now with a free kick in a good area. And I wonder if Holmberg may just go for goal here. Their set-piece routines haven't been very effective this season, but Holmberg does have a strike on her. What can she produce from this dead ball situation? It's a decent distance out, but Holmberg does look to go for goal. It's blocked away. Caldente on the rebound, lashing it well over the bar. And again, not a set piece that's worked out for Arsenal. Herman says, remember PSG, bringing world-class players is the easy part. Making a team out of them is the hard part. And Lloyd says, LCL. Yeah, I mean, that is a perfect analogy, really, of what London City have tried to do and hasn't worked perfectly in their first season. Will it work better next season? And the football fan says, do you think they would still get on Abate if they extend Katie McCabe's contract? Lloyd, on a similar point, saying, I don't know exactly what the politics of Arsenal's dressing room is, but it doesn't seem entirely helpful. I mean, the Telegraph article said that the McCabe contract, doesn't have any sort of impact on whether Bate comes or stays or goes, but I don't see why. I don't see how Arsenal could have McCabe, Hines, Holmberg, Fox, and Battier. And I think if McCabe and Battier are there, Fox goes. Surely that's the situation, because I don't see how the three of them all play enough minutes together. So I think it's a bit of an odd situation. And I think the other one is that the other oddity is that keeping McCabe means you have to keep Ford. Or at least that's how Arsenal seem to be looking at it, which I just don't think they don't need Caitlin Ford. She has offered very little this season. And while they could go out and get a winger who is, of the ilk, of the quality that they'd want in their side, instead it looks like they'll keep Ford another season. They've also offered Mead a new deal, which I think isn't as bad as Caitlin Ford, but I think there are better players out there who Arsenal could go and get. And it just feels like, again, we've said this before with Arsenal, there is too much sentimentality in Arsenal's decision-making. And that, I think, has had a negative impact on the side in recent years. I think they've kept players too long, or longer than they should have. I think it's going to continue, by the looks of it, to have a negative impact. And they're players who have a lot of power in the dressing room. So you can see why they want to keep those players, or why other players in the team would want to keep those players around. But yeah, I don't think they need McCabe anymore. I think it was the right time to move her on. And the fact they're U-turning on that decision, the fact that it came out quite publicly they were going to move her on, and then they're U-turning on it, I don't think it reflects very well on Arsenal's recruitment staff. It doesn't look like they've got a clear idea of what they're doing. I think that's how it reflects, to be honest. A question as well from W2U says, do you think Arsenal need to sign another centre-back? Absolutely. Hansen spins away from Wouben-Moy and looks to drive, and that's brilliant from Kirsty Hansen. Wriggles out of her control, now looking for Salmon, and that's brilliant from Hines. Really good defending from Taylor Hines in there, because the centre-half's got caught, and there was a great opportunity for Salmon. Hansen just managed to wriggle away from Wouben-Moy. Wouben-Moy couldn't pull her back. And then Taylor Hines does really well to get across Salmon and deal with her and let the ball trickle through to Annika Borba. Good defending there from Hines. But yeah, I think Arsenal need another centre-back. I think Kadina will move on in the summer. I think there's a spot in the squad for another centre-back, because I think you've got there Catley, Wouben-Moy, Williamson and Reed. I think there's a spot for one more. But the fact they've just renewed Catley does make things difficult. Because any centre-half the difficulty is that Arsenal, I think, need a starting centre-half. But is Catley going to accept a more rotational role? Ball lifted over the top, and that'll run right the way through to D'Angelo. Haywire says Arsenal are scared of moving on. Shamda says, why can't Claire be ruthless? Yeah, I think there is something to be said of keeping a squad together. But yeah, I think Arsenal have been too late to act and too sensitive, I think. They've got some players who are real club legends, of course, but I think they're players who should be moved on. You look at how other clubs in this league operate, and they move players on at the right times. Particularly, across the world, they move players on at the right time. Some of the big clubs. I think Arsenal are just being too sentimental with some of their decisions. Haywire says McCabe is a centre-back option. Yeah, and that does help her cause, but I think there's better centre-halves out there than Katie McCabe. And they're going to pay her a top, massive contract to be a backup centre-half and backup left-back. I just think that's a bit of a bizarre decision. Aston Villa trying to play to the left-hand side. Here's Maltby. Hansen can't quite keep it under her control, but Maltby does well there to pick up on the loose ball. Brilliant work from the fullback. Arsenal just didn't react to that there. And Aston Villa have wrangled some control in this game. Albeit they haven't been able to threaten very effectively. Hansen looks to lift it in behind. Carter, though, not quite on the same wavelength as she dropped in to receive, and that will run through to Lotte Wouben-Moy. Now Cadena. Wide to Hines. Cadena. Lloyd says Catley is adequate but old. Williamson's injury prone. They want to get to next April again and not have the depth. Yeah, I think that's the big question. Hines tries to feed it through. One back well. And now Kendall. I think Arsenal need a top quality left centre-half option. I don't think they need any more right centre-backs because Wubben-Moy can do it. They've got Williamson as the starter when she's fit. And Reed, I think, is one of the best defensive talents. Here's Hansen, wants to take on Wubben-Moy. Darts wide, looks to lift towards the back post. It's a good run from Salmon, but heads it down. And that just takes the pace off the ball and Borba can claim without issue. And that was a better move from Aston Villa, their best attack of the game so far. Just couldn't quite provide the finishing touch, but Hansen is getting the better of Wubben-Moy out there. Just doesn't seem to have the teammates to combine with. Cadena. Into Smith in the pocket, back to Cadena, knocks it wide to Hines, and it's been pulled back there as Smith was roughed up by Taylor. So Arsenal now with the free kick. Cadena through the lines to Rousseau. Lovely control as Rousseau shifts it wide. Hines here holding the width. Who can she pick out in the box? Opts to go backwards to Caldente. Cadena. Now Frida Marnham shifts it wide. Here's Hines. Lifts it into the area and the ball into the hands of D'Angelo. I think this is where I see the Caldente's role being a waste of her ability, is when she pulls into left back. Because I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, a lot of football teams do it, where one of your midfielders drops in to allow some of the other players to get higher. Villa playing out from the back here, out to the right-hand side. Here's Moritz. But I think when it's Caldente, you're dropping one of your best creative talents into play in the deepest line of your defence. When you're trying to break teams down, it leaves her way too deep in the field. I think that's got to be something Arsenal look at next season, of putting Caldente in the 10, so she's operating in and around the penalty area, and bringing someone into play in the midfield who can drop into the defensive line, and it's not a waste of Caldente's ability. Villa in possession. Taylor plays it forwards into Kendall. Kendall under pressure here from Mariona Caldente, does brilliantly to wriggle out of it. Here's Hijikata. And back now to Taylor. And Taylor happy just to wait on the ball. Under no aggressive pressure from Arsenal, but Villa just struggling to find options. Exchanges with Moritz, and now back to D'Angelo. Into Jean-Francois, bounces it back to De Landes. This is better football from Aston Villa. Daly, Jean-Francois, back to Daly, down the line, into Hansen. Has she timed this one well? No, she hasn't. That's Maltby, sorry, made the run down the line. And that's poor, really poor from Maltby. No need to be offside in that position. They've done so well there, Aston Villa, to open up the space. Fox was caught high. And yeah, it was just the fact that Jean-Francois delayed the pass. Daly then didn't get the ball as quick as she would have liked, and they couldn't play it through, and Maltby had already made the run. But I think she's got to be more aware there. She could have stayed in her own half and still been ahead of the Arsenal defensive line. That was a good opportunity. Just couldn't find. They just couldn't make it work. Maltby slightly offside. A little bit unlucky there for Aston Villa. Holmberg coming down the right-hand side. Maltby stands her up well. Now back to Fox. And this is, I guess, is where the question is asked of Arsenal, because they did really well to take advantage of Aston Villa's disorganisation, but Villa have definitely woken up in this game. We've not seen Arsenal come forwards in the last 10 minutes. It was one-way traffic for the first quarter of an hour, but Villa have settled into this game and are starting to play some better football. So the big question, I guess, is how do Arsenal approach this game from here? How do they find a way to create more opportunities? They did really well to pounce on a Villa mistake. Do they now have the ability to create chances of their own accord? That's, I think, still the question about about Arsenal. Agnator says, if Arsenal wins today, then third place secured. Yes, any victory today for Arsenal, any victory in their last 3 games of the season does secure Champions League football. They would have to drop points in all of the games left this season for United to have any shot of getting Champions League football. So this would seal them Champions League football next season. And if they do win today, then they only need... Well, they put themselves in a great position, to get second place ahead of Chelsea. Here is Little. Out wide into Holmberg, who lifts the ball in towards the back post. Smith is going to knock it back across the face of goal, and D'Angelo with a really good claim there. Had to adjust quickly, but does do well, and struggled earlier in this game to deal with the cross from Holmberg. Does a lot better on this occasion. Holmberg to Smith, ball back across the goal. D'Angelo does well to scurry and claim it. Moritz, Taylor, D'Angelo tries to play out. It's a poor pass. Marnham takes aim and should have passed. Really should have passed there. Frida Marnham picked up on a poor pass out from the back. I think she's got to square that to Russo. D'Angelo here, she's trying to feed it through to Kendall. It's too cute a pass. Marnham comes across. She's got an easy pass into Russo, who's in a much better position. But Marnham tries to shoot of her own accord, and it's claimed. And, well, Arsenal really should have a second goal by now. They've had the chances, just haven't quite killed this game off. Maltby tries to go into Hansen. Good defending from Ruben Moy. She steps in. Now Jean-Francois. And Aston Villa moving it into the back line. Taylor. Moritz into Kendall. Lovely drop of the shoulder and turns out looking for a forward pass. De Landes. Into Maltby. Maltby trying to go direct. Header won well by Ruben Moy. Here is Cadena. And now Little. Caldente finds Olivia Smith, who wants to create a shooting opportunity. Cuts inside Smith and her shot is blocked and over the bar and out for an Arsenal corner. I think Smith shot a little bit too early there. She cut inside well. Had a bit of room to drive into though. Was isolated one-on-one with Moritz. Cuts inside. And yeah, she's got around Moritz. I think could have kept carrying that inside there. Takes a shot early. And well, it's blocked by Taylor. Corner for Arsenal. Holmberg over this. Arsenal with the 9th best return from corners this season. Scoring a goal every 48 corners. That's not particularly good. Holmberg in towards the near post and cleared away without issue by Rachel Daly. And once again for Arsenal, not a good routine, not a good delivery and a wasted chance. Holmberg this time on a weaker foot lifts it into the area and D'Angelo with a comfortable claim. I think that's something Arsenal have to look at in the summer window is height. And so far all the signs they've been linked with are short players. Because their team is, they've got issues from other issues from corners. One of the biggest ones is just that they're shorter than every other team and they don't have physicality. Great switch to the play then to find Moritz as Villa come forwards. Now Kendall. Taylor, Kendall. Back to Taylor. Kendall. Round the corner. Into Moritz, back to Lucia Kendall. Now Taylor. De Landes. Tries to slip it through, looking for Maltby. That's a great ball from De Landes. Maltby plays it across the box. Not really the runner that she was hoping for in there, but Hines does have to clear it out for a throw. Villa are putting some pressure on Arsenal. Sam wants to take it quickly, ends up dropping it for Moritz though. Taylor. Great switch there, looking for Daly. It's just over Rachel Daly though, and Daly was in an offside position anyway, which she's a little bit confused about, and I have to say I agree there. Didn't appear to move from an offside position. The flag does go up. Or just get Viv back at Arsenal. Would never happen, but that is the kind of player they need. Or just anyone. It's a bit of height in that Arsenal squad. I think a tall centre-half. Bit of height in midfield as well. They just... And physicality. I think they've been bullied by too many teams. Hines. Into Smith. Who plays it into Mariona Caldente. Cadena. And now Smith. Knocks it wide into Hines. Caldente. Little. Caldente again. Cadena. To Wubben-Moy. And now with Holmberg. Wubben-Moy. Cadena. Caldente. And that's a good challenge from Hijikata to win back possession. Taylor. Into Jean-Francois, who receives well. Plays it into De Landes. De Landes with space to carry into. Maltby inside to Daly. And now into Jean-Francois. Taylor. Here's Kendall. Back to Taylor. Marnham putting the pressure on. Here's D'Angelo. And now Ocean De Landes. And back into D'Angelo. And he says easily, Arsenal could easily become nervous again. Yeah, they've not killed this game off. They've not found the goals that would have just put themselves in a comfortable position. And Villa have started to move the ball better. As I say, that's another poor pass. Marnham picks off that pass forwards from Taylor. And Arsenal move backwards. Wubben-Moy into Little. Cadena. Stepping forwards here high up the pitch. Spreads it wide. Holmberg squares up to Maltby. Looks to take it down the line, but good defending from Rachel Maltby. Arsenal retreating. Fox. Looks to dart inside. Great pass forwards into Russo, who cuts it back looking for Marnham, but Taylor, the recipient, she clears it away. So over half an hour gone here. And Arsenal have only registered 2 shots on target from 8 attempts. It feels to me a very similar issue to the Brighton game. They have created much better chances than in the Brighton game. But there have been a lot of shots from range. Or from angles that just weren't really going to go in. They've also had some big misses, it must be said. Wubben-Moy loses out to Jean-Francois, and here come Villa. Hansen trying to lift it in behind. And Cadena there just lumping into Ebony Salmon. Hines recovers the ball. Daly trying to pounce there on a bit of a relaxed touch from Wubben-Moy. Here is Hines. Fox. Now Cadena. Hines, that's a poor pass forwards. It's picked off by Kendall. Hijikata feeds it through looking for Hansen, but Wubben-Moy sweeps up well. Hines. Now Cadena. Out to Wubben-Moy. Inside to Russo. Russo knocks it wide. Here's Holmberg. Needs an option. Both Russo and Marnham seem to make the same run there. Russo does burst forwards. Now Holmberg. Back to Alessia Russo. Russo can lift it into the area. It doesn't. No one really makes contact with it. It runs right the way through. Moritz would try and stop it going for a throw. But can't quite get there, and it will be an Arsenal throw-in. Hammy says, for Arsenal, the experienced players need to step up now. Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like it's the younger players that everything's coming through. I think Holmberg and Smith have been the best players out there for Arsenal. So getting the ball to them in wide areas, ball fed through, Marnham in to score, and that's a good goal from Arsenal. Almost the same as they did against Brighton. A lovely combination between Marnham and Russo, and Frida Marnham tucks it home well. Tidy football from Arsenal, breaking through that central area, and Frida Marnham, almost an identical finish as the one on Wednesday night. Russo drops in, receives the ball here from Cadena. It creates that space then as Smith drifts inside for Marnham to burst through and slots it away. Well, it is remarkable how similar that is. And that's what Arsenal were trying to get with that Marnham-Russo connection. As Russo dropping off into that 10-role to be the creator, Marnham able to make that run through in behind into the space and finish off the chances. It's well composed by Arsenal and well finished off by Frida Marnham. And that should put them in a comfortable position now, because Villa haven't really offered much coming forward. They have got the ball into decent areas. There's been some decent passages of play, but they haven't been particularly threatening in the final third. And Arsenal, well, they've missed opportunities in front of goal. They finally take another, though, capitalising on Aston Villa weaknesses. But that was a really well taken goal. You know, that was a chance created from their own initiation there, Arsenal. Daly moves it backwards into De Landes. Now Kendall, Taylor. Great switch to the play from De Landes. Finds Ebony Salmon. And Salmon now could try and put the ball into the box. It's not a great delivery though. It'll bounce through and Daly tries to get there, but Fox on hand to steer it clear. Jean-Francois pouncing and heading away. But yeah, Russo getting another assist then. And we've seen more and more of her in that 10 role. I think she's better though when she's a striker dropping in. And it just creates this space. When she's playing in the 10, there's no one to drop out of the front line. When she plays in that kind of position though, and just allows someone to run on, in this case it's Frida Marnham, I think that's exactly what she's more suited to. And it's something that I think Arsenal will look to develop. Now, if they can play someone like, I mean, they could even try Cersei in that role. But they've also been linked with Geraldine Reuteler. We'll slip through looking for Daly. Well, Fox on hand to see it back to Borba. Showdell says, where do you expect Salmon to go this summer? I hope she goes to a top WSL2 side. I think there'll be an opportunity, I reckon, for her to go. This is a lovely bit of football. Hines into Smith, should score. Well dealt with by D'Angelo. Smith one-on-one, just couldn't quite poke it past the goalkeeper. D'Angelo did really well there to get out quickly, narrow the angle and deal with the danger. But Arsenal are stretching Villa really effectively. And yeah, this was always going to be difficult. D'Angelo came out. Taylor narrowed the angle as well. And yeah, no issues there for D'Angelo claiming the ball. But yeah, with Salmon, I think there will be opportunities to move to a side in the WSL. I think that Birmingham City coming up would probably not be the situation, but someone like a Crystal Palace, someone like if Charlton do come up, or if Leicester stay up, I think there will be opportunities there. But for me, I think she'd be better off having a season in the WSL too. I think her confidence in front of goal this season has been shot to bits. I think she just needs a season where she looks comfortably the best player in the league. And I think if she can have a WSL2 season at someone like Bristol City and just have a season where she scores like 20, 25 goals, because I think she could do that in the WSL2, I think it restores the confidence. If she stays in the WSL, my fear is that, again, you're going up against really difficult opponents and it's hard to get a good run of games going. It may be easier next year because we're going to have more promoted sides, and so that quality balance should shift a bit. But it's really difficult to have a run of form in the WSL when you're going to play a top side sort of every couple games. because, I mean, at the moment there's 11 teams in the league. So you've got 22 fixtures a season. And if you're outside the top 4, 8 of those 22 games that are difficult. So even if you have clusters, you're still not going to go 5 games without playing a tough team. So yeah, I think Sam would be better set taking a step down. Holly says, I think Sam would do well at Newcastle. We've had a goal scoring issue all season. I think she'd be a good fit. Yeah. Haywire says Newcastle, Bristol City. Absolutely. 2 sides with huge investment there. And neither side can go up this season, but I think they will both be right at the sharp end of the championship, of the WSL 2 next season. So yeah, I would say that would be the best move for Salmon. Here is Little. Out to the left-hand side. I think Villa need a goal scorer, but that is going to be difficult. They'd love someone that's WSL proven, but I don't think there's anyone available. Caldente out to the right-hand side. Now Holmberg. Looks to lift it in to the box, but it's not a great delivery. And it's over the bar and out for a goal kick. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what Villa do this summer. I think their recruitment over the last few seasons has been pretty good, but this season hasn't gone particularly to plan. Haywire says WSL is a very tough league for strikers. Yeah, I agree. I think it is a difficult league to. It is a tough league. It's a physical league, and I think the quality overall is really high. I think I'd put out there with the NWSL in terms of competitive balance. I think that may shift a little bit next season with 3 promoted sides potentially, but I don't think it's going to shift massively. I mean, it's nothing like the Liga F where you've got 1 good team, 2 okay teams, and everyone else. Oh, not even that this season. Real Sociedad have been quite good, to be fair. Well, Atleti have been pretty poor, but ball down the line from Moritz. Now Salmon looking to switch the play. That's a great ball into Daly and a great chance for Aston Villa here, but Fox recovers back quickly, makes the challenge, and Arsenal evade the danger. One height of the pitch again, though, by Maltby. Can she find a teammate? Cuts it back for Hansen now. Thought she might take the shot on there from the edge of the box. Ruben Moy steps up to try and handle it. Now wide with Maltby. Shamadil says, Gary News to the NWSL? Yeah, screams NWSL signing. I think the same for D'Angelo. I think D'Angelo would be a good signing in the NWSL, or potentially to the... What's the Canadian league called now? I can't remember, but is it like the Canadian Super League? Something along those lines. But I feel like that's been sort of up and coming, hasn't it? But I think she'll probably move to the NWSL. Villa coming down the right-hand side. Salmon tries to lift it into the box. It's blocked by Cadena. Salmon does get it in there, but Ruben Moy there at the front post to deal with the delivery. Haywire says Villa should try for Turland. Absolutely no chance. There's going to be big clubs in for Turland. I think Wolfsburg's the most likely destination for Elizabeth Turland. I think that would be a great signing. No, they're letting Enderman go. They're letting Lynette Birdenstein go. They're letting Pop go. So it's a big summer for Wolfsburg. I think Turland would be the perfect big signing to bring in that striker position. I think that's the right level of club as well for Turland. She deserves to be a top club. But I don't think she's good enough to play for a Barca, a Lyon, an Arsenal, a Chelsea even. I mean, I take her at Chelsea as a backup option, but I think Wolfsburg's a really nice level for her. She's still only 24, Elizabeth Turland. There's every chance she goes to Wolfsburg, does really well, then gets a move to one of the Champions League contending sides. Villa on the ball. Taylor trying to play forwards. Hit Jakarta. Does well there to get it under her control. And now Hansen trying to pull wide with possession, but it's a heavy control. Ruben now to Fox. Ruben across to Cadena. And now Hines. Smith. Hines. Goes down the line for Russo, who's ran out of play. That will be a Villa throw-in. Shamadil says, why won't United give her a good contract in regards to Turland? I think it's a symptom of the absolute mess that was the January transfer window. I think this was a planned thing. Turland is one of the only players in their squad that has a really high resale value. I mean, they bought her for, I think it was an undisclosed fee, but I believe it was around 100,000, 200,000, something like that. They could easily get 500,000 for her, I think. So she's a player with a lot of resale value. They'd already kind of replaced her with Schuler and Vangerheim, so they've got enough players that can play up front now. And I guess the thought is that they can make money on Turland and then reinvest across the squad. But yeah, there's not much investment there. So you can kind of see if there's no investment coming from higher up, you can see why internally United's recruitment staff might be doing that. But I think United as a club need to invest more. Salmon there, too strong on Taylor Hines, and that'll be a free kick for Arsenal as we move into additional time, which there'll only be a minute. Hasn't been many stoppages, to be fair. But it is always weird to see only a minute of added time. So, free kick now for Arsenal. They get another attempt at a set piece. We've seen a couple in this game. None have been even threatening, let alone successful. Will this one have the desired outcome? Holmberg then over this free kick. Lifts it in towards the back post. That's a great delivery and a big stop from D'Angelo. That's a huge save. Much better from Arsenal on that set piece. And Marnham can't quite believe she hasn't scored there. A great chance for Arsenal. That really should be 3-0. It's a pinpoint delivery from Holmberg. It does look like, I think Marnham may have gone too early there, to be fair. Yeah, nodding down to the bottom corner. D'Angelo, though, with a massive stop. And Aston Villa there, a bit of a let-off. Didn't do well enough to deal with that set piece. Arsenal now with a corner then. Holmberg into the box. Hines heads towards goal and heads over the bar. And Villa with the goal kick. Shamadil says Vangerheim at 550,000 was a panic buy. That's half time as well. Here at Villa Park, it's Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 2. It's been a comfortable first half for Arsenal. As we move into the break. An own goal from Noel Moritz and a goal from Frida Marnham, both set up by Alessia Russo, see us into the break with Arsenal in a 2-goal advantage. And it could be more. It really could be more for Arsenal. They've had the opportunities in that first half. Just couldn't really take them. Lovely combination, though, between Russo and Frida Marnham. And that ultimately made the difference going into the break and gives them a much more comfortable advantage. But Villa have really struggled in this game. I know it's a very rotated side. I think that's the biggest issue. But their whole defences look disorganised. I think their midfield have really struggled. They've struggled to play out. The midfield's just been overwhelmed, really, by Arsenal consistently. And yeah, their defensive line, there's just so much disorganisation, not enough communication in there. I think Moritz has really struggled individually against Smith. Holmberg's had a really good game as well, but I think actually Maltby's done okay. But yeah, there's just not that organisation. They miss a pattern in that back line, someone like Patton, someone like Parker, to really take control and be the first contact on deliveries, be the player that marshals the back line, is communicating. It doesn't look like there's anyone in the Villa back line doing that. It looks disorganised. It looks like there's a lot of miscommunication in there, players jumping up when they shouldn't, and Arsenal taken full advantage of that. I think you look at that first goal, the ball is delivered in from the right-hand side by Holmberg. No one deals with it. Or D'Angelo tries to deal with it, makes a mess of it. No one really reacts then. Russo's header should be dealt with by Moritz, but again, they just panic. And that's felt like the theme, really, for Aston Villa in the first 45 minutes. A lot of panic in defending. They don't look assured of themselves. They look like a side who are in poor form, which they are. They look like a side of a lot of players out injured, which they do. And yeah, I think this was a fairly predictable first half, right? Aston Villa haven't surprised us too much. I think there's been some nice passages where I think particularly Orion Jean-Francois on that left-hand side has been receiving from De Landes, combined nicely with Maltby, looking to break down the left-hand side. Hanson's been pulling wide quite effectively. But outside of that, they've not really got the ball forwards. And even in those moments, I don't think they've done enough to be able to really threaten Arsenal. I think that's been fairly prevalent in that first half. Just didn't really get shots away. I mean, if we look at the stats, one shot in that first half, not good enough, not going to get you a goal against a well-oiled Arsenal team. So, yeah, it's not really been the first half Aston Villa wanted, haven't really been able to offer anything of a fight to Arsenal, but Arsenal have done very well to take advantage of Aston Villa's issues, have done very well to, I think, particularly the second goal. Arsenal are a side who I think have done very good out of possession and often very good at capitalising and forcing mistakes out of oppositions, but often I think they struggle to create chances of their own accord. But that second goal was absolutely a chance they created by themselves. Russo drops in really effectively. They pull the space then in Aston Villa's backline by pulling. They create space by pulling De Landes out of position. Smith does really well. It's a blindside run by Smith that just again pulls, I think it's Kendall who's tracking her, pulls her out of the way, and it creates space for Marham to drive into. And that was a really well taken goal. Russo receives, turns, and slots through Marham. It's a really well composed goal, all about Russo dropping in, creating that space in behind, and Marham being able to exploit that. But that's what they haven't done enough of in recent games, and they did really well against Brighton, but outside of that, they didn't really create much of their own accord. And it's been a similar story here, where I think, again, a lot of Arsenal's players have been getting the ball wide and trying to find crosses, trying to get the ball in there because they aren't breaking Villa down, and then winning corners and set pieces. And their deliveries and their chances from set pieces haven't been incredible outside of the one at the end there. But Villa have made an absolute meal of defending them, and Arsenal should have capitalised more, really. But yeah, it's not been a bad performance from Arsenal. There's certainly some really positive signs. It does feel like we're seeing the same issues, though, for Arsenal in certain moments that we've seen throughout this season. But overall, it's been a positive performance. They're in a very healthy advantage, and Villa just don't look like they're in this game at all, really. But let me know what you thought of that first half in the live chat, and we'll dive into your thoughts as well. Hermie says, Arsenal need to keep belief alive for the rest of the season. They don't have too much to play for, do they, Arsenal? I mean, it depends how much they want to finish second. I think they'll want to end the season with 3 wins, finish second, and have that sort of momentum going into next season. But you could look at it either way. I mean, you could also say that Arsenal would be very happy to finish third, have already got a decent gap to United, and could play a bit of a rotated side for the rest of the season, give rest to key players. I mean, personally, I wouldn't play Williamson for the last 3 games of the season because there's not really the need to. I think that she needs a big rest. She's going to play in the internationals in June, so it's not like she's going to go ages without playing. Even if she did go ages without playing, that's kind of what she needs, just a rest from football. You look how tired she looks in that Lyonese game because she's got rushed back in. She played 45 minutes against Leicester for no reason. I don't think Arsenal need to play Williamson for the rest of the season. So little things like that I think they could do. I think we're seeing Holmberg get a lot more minutes. That's really important at the end of this season. I think she will be, she's a top talent, a player with a lot of potential. I don't think she's a right winger, but she can do that job. But I think she's a really good defensive player. A very good attacking fullback, sorry, I should say. But yeah. It's good to see players like that getting minutes. I think Marnham getting minutes is interesting. Will they look to renew her contract then? But the other issue is Arsenal don't really have any young players to give minutes to. I think that's a bit of a shame. They sent Harbour on loan to Everton, where she's not really played. Leah's had a really good loan spell already at Hammarby in the Damallsvenskan, so that's been a really successful loan move. But there are a few where you go, well, maybe they could have stayed and got some more minutes. But I think, is it Cecily Wellesley-Smith who's got on loan to Rosengard? They're the kind of players that could have got minutes in these last 3 games of the season, but it's good they're giving Holmberg minutes. I think that's important. I'm not surprised at them giving Kadina minutes, but I don't think that's going to have any bearing on next season. Performance in this game and last game is really strong from Freedom Arnhem, but I don't think they should renew a contract. It may do enough to sway the recruitment team otherwise. They may keep her around as an option in that 10 role. If they are getting Cersei, that's going to add another attacker to their team, but they may view it as, Cersei comes in, me goes out, and that's kind of balanced. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see. I mean, then I guess you could also look at it as Reutler comes in, Marnham goes, but I think you can push Caldente into that 10 role as well. Well, they should be, really. Jeremy says, Arsenal will not want qualifying, especially more games in the WSL next season. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think Phil was making the point the other way where qualifiers are a good way to get into the season. They're sort of better than friendlies because there's competitive football on the line. But equally, I mean, you look back at the last few sides that play qualifiers. Yes, United took form into the season, but did those added games stack up over time because they've had so many injuries this season? And obviously with the World Cup, then qualifiers. The World Sevens, then qualifiers, and then the World Cup, then qualifiers. It all seemed to add up for United, as well as obviously playing more games, more intense games every week. So, yeah, I don't think... I mean, no WSL side, I don't think, should be wanting to go through qualifiers because you want that security, really, don't you? I mean, they all back themselves, presumably, to get through the qualification stage. Obviously, we saw, though, what happened to Arsenal 2 seasons ago where they didn't. So, yeah, I think it will be... I think Arsenal would want to finish second, make it comfortable, be automatically in the Champions League, and that then makes their life easier going into next season. And yeah, as you say, extra games. I don't know how much impact that will have in terms of... we speak a lot about fatigue. I think it's going to be better for the weaker sides in the league because they're going to get to play. They shouldn't have those long spells where they don't play games because presumably we won't have League Cup games at weekends now. So, I mean, you look at what's happened this season with these double international breaks. They've been awful for the league season, where basically the WSL have either had a rest weekend before an international break or a League Cup weekend before an international break. And the end of the season has been so broken up where teams have played like 2 games and then gone 3 weeks without playing or 2 weeks without playing, then played 2 games, then gone time without playing. It's just made it very disjointed. Hopefully we do away with that next season and we can actually have a bit more of a sort of consistent run of matches. Hopefully, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but the Champions League semi-finals should be midweek games. I think that is an absolute must going forwards. I understand the point about wanting to have the higher attendances, which do come at weekends, but I think all the clubs now that are in the getting to the Champions League semi-finals have the ability to sell out a decent amount in the midweek. And I think the aesthetic of Champions League games being in the evening, I think it's so much better. And we can't keep having a situation like we have here with Arsenal, where they've had to rearrange all their games at the end of this season to sort it all out. And they've played midweek, they've played WSL games in the midweek. It's not really fair on the WSL teams. I think, yeah, Champions League should be midweek for me. But yeah. Hermie says, 3rd place WSL team has to play 1 extra playoff round. Yeah. And it'll be against another team in that same sort of situation. But again, that all depends on the draw, because you could get anyone from someone like a Haircon to Wolfsburg. So they're very different ends of the draw, but I think it will be seeded based on coefficient, right? So it may well end up being a slightly easier or slightly more normal draw. Showdell says, would you like the Subway Cup final to be 2-legged? No way. Absolutely not. That would be awful. I don't like 2-legged finals in any competition. I think the UEFA Women's Cup being... Or is it Europa Women's Cup? I can't remember what they've called it now. Women's Europa Cup, isn't it? I think that being 2-legged final wasn't great. The only reason it kind of worked was because they were both Swedish, so it kind of made it better. And I do understand the point of not wanting to have it in a different country. Obviously, the Champions League finals hosted in a country that isn't either of the 2 finalists. I mean, it could be, obviously. It's because they decided before the tournament. But the point is that it's a neutral ground. Sometimes it turns out that it isn't. But I understand that it would be difficult, I guess, for some of those smaller teams to have many fans travel that kind of distance. But yeah, so I understand it in the short term, but I do hope that eventually we get to the point where that is a 1-legged final rather than that. What was the other thing that was said? Oh, Haywire saying the Champions League teams won't play Subway League Cup next season. Nope. I think that make that competition interesting. I think it will give an opportunity for teams that don't win loads of things to win something, which is nice. But it does kind of cheapen the achievement, I guess, because you're not competing against the best sides in the country. But I don't know. I mean, United should be favourites for it next season because they won't get you Champions League football now. But I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win it. Like, I could see a Liverpool, which may be surprising because they're 11th, but I think they've been so good the second half of the season. I could see a Brighton being right up there. Tottenham as well. I think London City would love to win it. So I think it'll be good. And so there's big difference in attendances midweek versus weekend. Yeah, but I think that's kind of just... I think that's a short-term issue. Like, I do understand that argument, but I think Champions League games should be in the midweek. I just think it's much better for the Champions League not to impact on the WSL season. Jennifer says, who's your most improved player of the year? That is a hell of a question. This is something we'll actually look at next week. Not next week, week after. When we're going to look back at how we predicted the WSL at the start of the season and see how close we were. I'm going to take a safe bet. We're not particularly close, but I can't remember what we predicted at all. But I think I said that Matilda Vinberg will be the most improved player. And I don't hate that. I don't hate that shout even now. I think she's had a massive upgrade this season. Massive improvement. Outside of that, I think Hanson, a lot of people would say, but I think she's done well, but I don't think she's improved massively from where she was, to be fair. She's just been a bit more consistent in front of goal. And, but yeah, she has done really well, to be fair. So that could be a shout. But I'm not sure. I have to think longer on that one, Jennifer. Jeremy says, I like the midweek games under the lights. Yeah, the aesthetic of Champions League is that it's a night game and you have the build-up of the atmosphere like that. It's killed when it's in the sun. I absolutely hate Champions League games in the sun. It's why I think the quarter-final stage, for me, is always better to attend than the semi-final stage. And I think you get a core supporter group anyway that are going to go. So I think it'd be better. Laura says Champions League, Arsenal versus Chelsea with 26k, same WSL tie 46k. But I think you lose 20,000 casuals. And obviously a few families as well. But I don't think it's too bad. I thought the atmosphere, particularly at Stamford Bridge, I know obviously the Emirates is different because they have obviously a strong attendance, and Arsenal building that as their base has been massive for them. And Chelsea will be trying to do that next season. But I think the atmosphere at the Bridge for the night game was 10 times better than when I've seen it for midweeks, for weekends. I think you get so many less casual fans, so many less families. I think particularly when they don't organise family stands particularly well, you end up with those kind of issues. But I think the atmosphere is so much better in midweeks at the Bridge than it is at weekends. So it's just a personal thing. But obviously, you are going to see a lower attendance because, as I say, you don't get the casuals for the weekend because it's not on the weekend. You don't get families because it's a night game, and people have to go to school, which I think is just poor commitment. Got to back your football team, but yeah. Again, I think you move it in the midweek and you build, and then the culture gets built around that. Either way, we're about to get underway in the second half here at Villa Park. It's Hijikata from the middle, waiting for the referee's whistle to get us back underway. Can Aston Villa offer any more of a fight than they did in the first half, or will Arsenal steamroll their way to an important victory? Hijikata knocks it back. We're back underway in this game. Maltby back into De Landes. And now Kendall turns out well. And here's Maltby. Shifts it inside to Salmon. Hijikata now. Back into Kendall. And Villa do seem to have come out immediately with a renewed confidence. How sustainable is that? Kendall. Into Taylor. Knocks it wide. Daly pulling wide to receive. Turning and looking for support is Jean-Francois. Tries to knock it wide into Hansen. Daly's been caught there in the challenge. But I think it will be an Arsenal throw-in either way. Probably should have been Aston Villa free kick. Daly just getting caught. But it will be an Arsenal throw. Hines with the ball. Looking to go down the line. Head away well by Moritz in that role. Sharon says, should Villa sign Jenna on a permanent? Yeah, I think she's done really well at Aston Villa in the 6 months she's been there. Obviously, she's not really played. She didn't really play to start and then has been getting minutes. Obviously, can't play in this game, but I think she's done really well. I believe Villa have a buy option in the loan deal. I think they will trigger that, particularly obviously with Paula Thomas retiring. That was a horrible situation. Obviously, wish her the best in whatever she decides to pursue next. But they do need a starting left back for next season. Nice one. I don't think she's going to get a better option than Villa right now. I think it's a great opportunity to sort of rebuild her career to a certain extent. I think obviously the Arsenal move didn't work out at all. She's not going to get a move to another big club. I think Villa's a really good destination to sort of rebuild her profile. And yeah, I think she played really well in the games leading up to this. And it's been important in the back half of the season, even if Villa haven't been picking up loads of points. Great pick-off here from Ndeye. It's a terrible pass from Wooben Moy. What can Villa do in the final third? Tries to slot it through. Kadina hands all over Hijikata. And it's a bit of both, really, as they pulled each other to the ground. And it's been given as an Arsenal free kick. I believe Hijikata is not happy at all. And yeah, Wooben Moy's pass out was a bit of a woeful one. Hijikata made the burst off the shoulder of Kadina. Kadina was pulling her, to be fair. Hijikata pulled back, though. I think that's a little bit lucky for Kadina. She held the shirt, and then she was the one holding Hijikata, if anything. Jeremy says, Hines has done better at Arsenal than I thought she would. I think Hines performs in the games where I would have expected her to. No, I think she's a really good option to play the WSL sort of filler matches against other lower sides in the league. But you wouldn't trust her to. I think when she played in the Champions League against Aurora Lyonnaise, you saw the issue there in the group stage where Diani just had so much joy. I mean, to be fair, Diani had loads of joy against McCabe, so it doesn't really make a huge difference there. But I think that says more about McCabe, to be honest. But I think Arsenal, if they had Battier and Hines, have a really good setup there, where you've got one fullback who is the elite level and one fullback who is absolutely good enough to play in the WSL, and that's kind of what they need. I think Hines does well in these kind of games. Would struggle if she starts in the top matches, but it's like good enough if there is an injury in that position to be able to deputise in that kind of role. Taylor. Into Hijikata, looks for Jean-Francois, who pokes it on. De Landes. Now to Salmon. Kendall. This is better from Aston Villa. A lovely ball on the left-hand side. Maltby now. Wants to take on Holmberg. Doesn't have much support. Now Villa players coming forwards. Kendall. Into Hijikata. Lovely football into Salmon. Can she find the cut back? It's in towards the front post, off the post. And Villa there, a lovely move, just couldn't find the final ball. Salmon's got to cut it back there to Hijikata. And just tried there to catch Bulber out of the front post and hits the post. The ball would have had it covered if it was on target. Caldente to the left-hand side, and Villa coming forwards may well give Arsenal more space to break into. Hines' forward pass, though, cut out by Taylor. Laura says, Kadina makes me nervous. Time to let her go. Yeah, I think Kadina will move on this summer. Probably back to Spain. No, I don't see her getting a WSL move. I don't really see who would go out and want to sign her. But I think, an Atletico Madrid would be a fine destination for Kadina. She's probably, she's still play Champions League football if Atleti get there, which doesn't actually look like it's going to happen at the moment, does it? But would at least play Champions League football in the future. I was just trying to find the Liga F. But where are they now? Still 4th. Yeah, they're not going to get Champions League football this season. They're miles off it. But would play Champions League football in the future. Would be playing in Liga F at one of the better clubs in the league. Would probably be a starting centre-half. So, yeah, I could see that. Just something along those lines. I don't see her staying in the WSL, though. Anton says, when is Fox out of contract? Could she be going back to America for that big Rodman Rule contract? Fox, I want to say, is 2028. I don't think she's even 2027. I believe she's still got 2 years on her current deal. So it would take a big offer to get her out of Arsenal. If there was interest from an NWSL club. I wouldn't have... A ball slipped through from Marnham to Russo. Who rounds the keeper. Should score and does score. And that's better from Arsenal again. Lovely combination between Marnham and Russo, who've linked up really well in the last few weeks. And this time it's Alessia Russo who provides the finishing touch. Lovely move from Arsenal through the central area. Villa just cannot handle Alessia Russo today. And Arsenal cruising to a comfortable victory. Hines shifted inside. It's a great ball through from Marnham. Russo makes her off the shoulder. D'Angelo can't do enough. As Russo rounds her well. And Arsenal taking a strong advantage in this game. It's brilliant from Russo. Just waits as long as possible there before taking the ball around D'Angelo. Any sooner, and it makes it too obvious what she's going to do, and D'Angelo can adjust. So she delays and then pokes it past D'Angelo. Keeps it well under her control. Good finish from Russo. Really tidy play. Villa, lovely combination down the right-hand side. Here is Kendall. And Caldente there winning outside a throw. Sheldon says bad defending. It's a little bit poor, but again, I think it's just they get drawn in to that side, don't they, Aston Villa? And I don't really know what the centre-halves can do there. Marnham's in acres. Russo times the run well. Taylor can't get across quick enough. And the ball gets slipped through. And again, they just open up that space really effectively. Lovely play. Arsenal trying to come forwards now. Ball slipped in behind. And Holmberg driving forwards now for Arsenal. She's in behind. Slows down a little. And it's good defending from Maltby to shuffle her wide. Holmberg just never looked comfortable in that kind of position. She's not a right winger. Smila Holmberg. I think that much is evident. But doing a good job today in that sort of makeshift role. Little. Now Woober Moy into Cadena. Daly trying to carry inside. Jean-Francois gives it back to Deslandes. Maltby. And now with Taylor. Kendall. Trying to drive forwards. Caldente trying to win the ball. Can't quite make the tackle. Maltby inside to Jean-Francois. Had Salmon down the line. Goes back to Rachel Maltby instead. Jennifer says Russo hat-trick. I mean, she was credited according to FotMob with the first goal. I think that's kind of fortunate because her shot was blocked and then Moritz clears it up in the air. Oh, smashes it into her own goal. I don't really think that was a Russo goal, but she was crucial in creating it, absolutely. But I don't think she scored the goal. Ruben Moy. Now Cadena. One back by Jean-Francois. Russo, though, turns it over and Jean-Francois pulls her down. And that, you would think, will be a yellow card. Potentially. Not sure. But a deliberate foul there from Orion Jean-Francois. But yeah, Smith just drops in. It's really good from Smith because it pulls Moritz. It gives the space then behind down the line. Marnham shuffles it in, shifts it inside. Well, she's inside to Marnham, who does well there to create space to play the ball through. It's a well-crafted move from Arsenal. And again, Villa just trying to be aggressive in the counter-press. Don't really have the support behind them. And so Arsenal are able to draw space with their movement and play into it. Hines, well, makes a mess of that one. And that'll be a goal kick. Ball went out to her on the left-hand side and just falls over as she looks to make the cross. But yeah, I think this has been kind of typical of Villa's second half of the season. They've not been anywhere near good enough. They played well in the game against Man City. Outside of that, though, not really. Oh, I mean, been pretty disastrous, 2026. Way too many goals conceded. And struggled for results. Their only wins this calendar year coming against Brighton and Leicester. Narrow win against Brighton they probably didn't deserve, and a narrow win against one of the weakest side, or the weakest side in the division. Cadena. Now to Borba. Ball in behind, looking for Alessia Russo. Good defending from De Landes as she comes across. Russo. Now Fox. Holmberg dispossessed by Salmon. And she had run it out of play for a goal kick either way. And so Villa will play out from the back. D'Angelo. Now Kendall. Turns and finds Daly. Daly back into Moritz. And now De Landes. Agneta questioning Russo scored 2. Yeah, I don't count the first one as a Russo goal, but it has gone down. I don't know. I imagine Opta will review it, but has gone down as a Russo goal for now. And I'm sure she will be very happy to claim it. Thanks into double digits for the season. Here's Little. Ruben Moy. Out to the right-hand side. Here's Holmberg. Shuffled out of play by Maltby. Does take a touch off the Villa defender. Will be a corner. But yeah, Arsenal fans, if I'm going to ask an honest question, should Russo have been nominated for Player of the Season? Because the Player of the Season nominations came out, and I was surprised to see any Arsenal or Chelsea players on there, but Russo and Thompson were both nominated. I just wanted to get Arsenal fans' thoughts. Has Russo been has she been in the best 8 players, I guess, is the way to look at it, of this season? I'm intrigued to know what you guys think. Double change now coming for Arsenal. And it will be Beth Mead for Smila Holmberg, as Beth Mead makes her return after a leave of absence. And Alessia Russo departs. She won't get to a hat-trick. Stina Blackstenius enters the play with half an hour left in this game. But yeah, good performance from both those players today. Holmberg and Russo, both instrumental. And, well, good to see them both getting a rest, I guess, because they'll be important in Arsenal's last 2 games of the season. Kade says, is Liverpool Brighton FA Cup already get played or not yet? No, that is tomorrow. Make sure to join us here tomorrow. Doubleheader of FA Cup semi-finals will be live for the 12 o'clock kickoff and the 3:30 kickoff. Liverpool versus Brighton in the morning. Chelsea versus Man City in the afternoon. It's going to be a great day of FA Cup semi-final action. Can't wait for it. Handball there from Smith. Free kick for us, for Aston Villa on the edge of the box. Jeremy says, do you think the system Villa play leaves their backline exposed? I think it has done this season, yeah. I think last season their 3-back was much more rigid. This season it's been, I think, quite aggressive. So they've gone from quite a defensive team to an over-aggressive team. And I think this kind of happens with 3-backs. You either end up being a 5-back and very defensive, or a 3-back and very open. I think you need kind of specialist players in every position to make a 3-back work without it just becoming a 5-back. We're seeing Villa try to bridge the gap by sending us now, taking a shot on goal, saved well by D'Angelo. We're seeing them try and bridge that gap by having by using a 4-back in possession and a 5-back when they're defending. And at times it's worked, but often I think they just get torn apart too easily against big teams. You know, they lost 6-1 to City before the turn of the year. I know they got 0-0 recently, which is a good result, but you know, they're conceding a few here. They got tanked by Tottenham, conceded 7 in that game. They conceded 4 against Chelsea, and yeah, they scored 3, but Chelsea made some big mistakes that day. And they could have scored more. Anton says, not in the double sale, Russo was good in the Champions League. Lloyd says, Russo's been very consistent, and Arsenal have been the more successful team than any double sale team bar City. And several Russo goals have been seriously brilliant. Yeah, I think Russo's had a good season. I don't think he's been in the 8 best players in the league. That would be my argument. I get why they've included. They were always going to have an Arsenal player in there, but I think it's easy just to look at numbers, isn't it? Often with players, and her numbers are fine this season. You know, 11 goals in the league. I think is 3rd top scorer now. Brace a day helps, but like she scored twice a day. I think twice against West Ham earlier this season, or once against West Ham. A hat-trick against Tottenham a few weeks ago obviously helped things as well. But Mead lifted into the area. I don't know, I think by her standards it's been a poor season. I think, not a poor season, sorry. It's been a weaker season than her standards. And I think Arsenal should have made a serious run at the title this year with the fact they haven't really had many major injuries outside of Williamson. Their squad has stayed mainly, you know, their starting 11, has stayed fit for most of the season. No, they've started to have a few players tail off at the end of this campaign, but most of them have been rotation players, other than Catley. So, I don't know. I think they've been fine. They've drawn a lot of games. I think their approach is kind of too cautious, Arsenal. That's why they've drawn so many. But they've also, I believe, lost the least games of anyone in the league this season. But, yeah. Spirit says, I don't like how both FA Cup games start at the same time. Oh, they don't. The FA Cup games start consecutively, so you can watch one then the other. They did overlap a few years ago. But this season they have created enough distance between the two, where even if the first game goes to extra time and penalties, you can still watch both FA Cup games. So, yeah. Look out for that tomorrow. Not going to be, thankfully this year won't be an issue. Ball knocked in behind to Hansen, who's going to get around Cadena, but Cadena gets a foot in there. Good tackle. Looked to have been caught out, but did enough to recover. Lloyd sends it long, and it runs through to D'Angelo. Lloyd says perhaps there are 8 players better in the WSL, but it'd be weird for a club to do as well as Arsenal without a single top 8 player. I just think, I mean, Arsenal players have had, I think there's been a lot of moments for Arsenal players, but I don't think any individual player has had a great standout campaign. I think similar with Chelsea. So you look at last season, right? And Chelsea had an invincible season, but I wouldn't have said any individual Chelsea player had a particularly standout campaign, but they're a really good team. But it makes it difficult when you look at individual awards, because who was standout for Chelsea last season? But I mean, for me, the best 8 players this season were Shaw, Miedemar, Hasegawa, Kasper. I think you've got to have 4 C players. They've been the best team in the league. I think Hansen's got to be in there because she scored 12 goals. And so it's an individual award. I think she's got to be in there. Fox nudged down well by Salmon. Nudged off the ball. Still going here, Fox. And now Mead. Plays it into Wooben Moy. Mead down the line. Looks for Marnham. It's dealt with well by Kendall. I then have Holt in there. And then that leaves 2 spots, which I think it's yeah. Again, I think it's difficult for individual awards because I don't. Yeah, again, I don't think. I mean, it's Shaw anyway. Really, I did enjoy the Football Rights Association, which had Shaw, Russo, James, which is just. Like, I love Lauren James. She's been brilliant when she's been fit, but she's missed half the season. Mead, ball into the area, header on target, headed away well. Now Smith takes aim. That's a big block from Taylor there in front of goal. Smith there had the opportunity there to sort of bring it down in the area and fire a powerful effort, but blocked well by Taylor. And Arsenal just can't go ahead. Smith has been good today, just hasn't quite been able to score a goal of her own. And while again, they don't really know what Arsenal are complaining about there. There's some sort of complaint from Moy. Did it hit the arm there of Taylor? Potentially. Didn't see that on the first viewing. Didn't really get a good look at it on the second. Jean-Francois, physical up against Smith. And that will be a goal kick now. That's not a handball. It hits her arm, but the arm is there. But yeah. I think that was too close to her body there to really be an issue. Lloyd says Jade Rose or Fox. Yeah, I'd have both of those in that argument. I think Fox actually, yeah, if you're going to have an Arsenal player in there as a sort of token Arsenal player, I think Fox has been a better standout than Russo has. He's just been more consistent over the season. And Hemp, I think it's got to be in there as well. So it's really difficult. All of City's players have had a really good season. That's kind of why they deserve to be champions. They've all had a really, really good campaign. Changes then for Arsenal, Pullover and Kelly on for Little and Smith. Pullover coming into the midfield pivot then, and Kelly onto this left wing. 22 minutes to go. Can Arsenal add to their strong lead and make it more comprehensive? That's what they'll be hoping to do. All right, wait for play to restart. I will say, if you are new to the channel and haven't yet subscribed, please make sure to do so. We've already gained quite a few subscribers on today's stream, but we'd like to get... Oh, well, we're on the road towards 10k subs, so every subscriber helps us towards that goal. So if you are new and enjoying the stream, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and massively helps us out. Here is Caldente. Into Wouben-Moy. Plays it forward and Jean-Francois picks it off. Pullover. Now Cadena. Into Hines. Looks to carry inside. Plays the pass to Pullover. Ball out towards the left-hand side. It's not a great pass though from Wouben-Moy. Kelly can't quite get there. Lloyd says Kelly seriously underutilised by Slegers this season. She's been coming back from injury all season, hasn't she? And I don't know. I think that Pullover takes aim from range. That's a good save from D'Angelo. Gets across well. Makes the stop. And Arsenal peppered that Villa goal with shots today. But yeah, I think Kelly's an interesting one. I think she's better when she comes off the bench. But Arsenal don't really have a starting winger who... Outside, I think Smith is sort of your nailed starting winger, but on the other side, I don't think Ford, Mead or Kelly are the sort of starting quality that Arsenal need. It's weird to me that Arsenal haven't looked at a winger and instead offered Ford and Mead new contracts. I think that is a very odd decision. Hijikata into Daly, back towards my Hijikata. And I think that's where the sentimentality that we spoke about earlier in the stream is kind of causing an issue. Cadena battling away with Hijikata. Mullet comes across, makes a clean challenge. Now, but apparently that will be a free kick. I don't think that's entirely fair. Arsenal free kick then deep in their own half. Wouben-Moy now into Fox. Blackstenius holds the ball up well. Great challenge from De Landes. Falls though for Mead. Knocks it out into Fox, who wants to come inside now, Emily Fox. And Maltby does well to stick with her and blocks it out for a corner. What can Arsenal do from this dead ball situation? Haven't done, again, much from set pieces this season. We say it every time Arsenal have a corner. Can they do something from this one? That's the big question. Mead then over this. Who can they pick out in the box? Ball lifted in there and headed away well by Daly. Fox, Mead. Wide now into Mead. Back to Fox, Mead. Caldente. Fox, back to Caldente. Palova. Looks to carry it forwards. Now with Fox. Needs some support. Palova. Now Caldente. Palova trying to feed it through the lines and Daly blocks it. And now Villa will play forwards. Here's Hijikata. Inside to Kendall. Jean-Francois carrying the ball forwards well for Villa. Looks to the right-hand side for Salmon. Heinzo jumps in front of it. It's a good interception. But Ritz comes across and wins the ball. I think that's where Hines struggles a little bit. It's physicality. I think she's a really good a very technically gifted player. But I think it is the physicality where she really struggles. And that's why I think she can't really play in the bigger games for Arsenal. Apart from that, yeah. It's been a really good signing. I know that's something we were talking about earlier. And just saw it again there. She got muscled off. Nice move here between Blackstenius and Marnham. Blackstenius now has options for the cutback. Goes for a goal herself. And really should have cut it back. A nice move for Arsenal. Blackstenius choosing the selfish option. And can't hit the target. Got to look back there, surely. Mead and Marnham are in acres of space. It's just too open for Aston Villa. And yeah, has to square that. Mead and Marnham both rightfully airing their frustrations with Blackstenius there. Because they could have had another goal. He says, I don't mind McCabe, Mead, Marnham and other senior players leaving. New fresh look for the new season. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to happen now though, does it? I think this is the thing. I think we're talking about, oh, Arsenal finally doing the rebuild. And now they look like they're going to U-turn on most of it. Paul, you are right. So I think Mead was offered a contract and then we didn't sign. Ford is being offered a contract. We're not going to keep both. We'll be bringing in a new winger in the summer. Well, possibly. I mean, obviously both have been offered contracts. Every chance that Mead does sign it. It looks like Ford will stay if McCabe stays. So it looks like they'll keep at least one of them. I think the assumption that Arsenal will sign a winger in the summer, it looks like they may well sign Cersei, who is more of a striker. Can definitely play out wide, but is more of a striker. And that would kind of be fine if she's going to come in and be starting in that position. Reutler can also play out wide. That could be a consideration. But I think they should... I think the biggest thing Arsenal need is just another blockbuster winger signing. I like Reutler a lot. I think she's a really talented player. I don't think she's necessarily what Arsenal need. I think it would make much more sense to play Caldente in the 10 rather than keep shoehorning her into a deeper position. because they're going to bring in Stanway. I think they still need another midfielder to play alongside Stanway, and then have Little as a bit more of a rotation option next season. Because she can't play this. I mean, she looks knackered at the moment. She can't play every game next season. So have her as a bit more of a rotation player. Much higher standard than someone like Palova coming off the bench, for example. And then I think you need someone alongside Georgia Stanway who is sort of an elite level defensive midfielder. I mean, I know they're interested in Walsh, didn't get her. She went to Chelsea, which that kind of hasn't worked out for anyone involved. Kelly takes aim. Well saved by D'Angelo. So I think they need someone like that to play alongside Stanway. Have Little as a rotation. Put Calente in the 10. Smith and an older winger, one side. Obviously, Smith can play both sides. Kelly can cover both sides. And the thing is, I know they're offered contracts for both Mead and Ford. I would want to keep Mead rather than Ford, but it looks like they're going to lose Mead and keep Ford. I mean, I think they're fine to move both on, but if they're going to keep either, Mead is the better player than Ford. And yeah, I think offering Ford a new contract is a bizarre decision. She's been fairly poor this season. Changes for one of the sides then. It's going to be Aston Villa. It's a nice one, this. Lucy Staniforth on for her last appearance at Villa Park. And she will be met by a standing ovation. 183 appearances in the WSL, retiring at the end of this season. This is going to be her last performance, her last game at Villa Park. Replaces Rachel Daly and will come into the midfield. That's a nice one to see. And the Villa fans and Arsenal fans alike with a standing ovation for Staniforth. Ball cut out in midfield. Well, here is Kendall to Jean-Francois, tries to poke it on. Kendall. Back to Taylor. Kendall. Anton says Ford will be cheaper than keeping Mead. Yeah, but Ford isn't good enough. No, I think Arsenal made a massive mistake last summer when they kept both Mead and Ford and let Godfrey go. Salmon looks to take on Fox, and Fox is physical and gets across her well. Sees the ball out of play. I think Godfrey is as a player with huge potential. And I think there are other players on the market they could go out and get that have that sort of huge potential, rather than holding on to players who I don't think are good enough now and aren't going to get any better. But I mean, Mead is going to want a big contract, so I can see why they're moving her on. I think I get why City are offering her a deal because of Miedemar, but I don't think she gives them anything they don't already have. I don't think she offers anything like better than what they've got, sorry. It's Baxtenius, breaks on the left-hand side, should square it, finds Marnham, turns now to Palova, who will take aim. And well, a tame effort is a comfortable claim for D'Angelo. Here is Kelly, back to Hines. Denise Brown says we need Clara Buell on the left. Absolutely. Every club in the world needs Clara Buell, to be honest. Just not very attainable, though, is she? I think clearly has a strong affinity to Bayern. Ball in from Fox, headed on by Blacksenius. A poor header. Well wide of the mark. I think Clara Buell is one of the best players in the world. But if she was going to leave Bayern, I think she would have gone to Barcelona. But I'd love to see her in the WSL. As much as I'm not an Arsenal fan, I'd love to see Clara Buell in the WSL. I don't think she's going to come, though. But of course, any club signing Buell, that would be a great signing. Mark says, Arsenal men's team have been very successful with set pieces, especially corners this season. Does anyone know why this input is not used to the benefit of the women's team? Arsenal women's team aren't the same, I guess, as the men's team in terms of profile. They're also not coached by the same teams, but there's no height in this Arsenal team. So when you look at what Arsenal men have done, they've basically just bought loads of really tall physical players. Arsenal women have no tall or physical players. It's much more technical side. Whereas obviously Arsenal men have just signed loads of massive blokes. It's basically their recruitment policy. They're all huge physical players. I mean, technically good as well, but they're able to gain a huge amount by just being much more aggressive, much more physical than teams in the penalty area. That's why they've had so much success on set pieces. And they've also got so many different threats. So, if you look at any set piece, because they play 4 centre-backs in the back line, any of them can score from a set piece. Whereas this Arsenal side, who's the set piece threat? Who in this Arsenal team is good in the air? Williamson, when she's fit, is an option. But again, if it's just Williamson on the pitch, you're going to mark her. Wubamoi is an option. Not the best at finishing headers, though. It's okay defending them, but they're just too small and not physical enough, this Arsenal team, on corners. I think that's a big reason why their set pieces fail. You look at City, they've got Miedemar, they've got Kanak. On every set piece, they're going to be a threat. Defensive ones, they've got Rose as well. He's got a bit high. Obviously, Shaw as well is the best header of the football in the league. So, and then I think it's, who scored the second most? Is it Villa? I think Villa are up there for set pieces because they've got Patton, who's really good, Parker, who's really good. And they've just got a bit of physicality about them. But yeah, Arsenal just don't have that physicality. Mark says height is clearly an issue, but therefore better tactics are needed. Well, I think they try and put the ball into the box a lot, and they've had a lot of poor deliveries, particularly in this game. But it just feels like a waste when they just put set pieces into the area. Lloyd says, Jack, you surely know Arsenal men's set piece superiority is not mere height. The execution is brilliant. They don't just get goals. The corner plan often works perfectly. I mean, of course, I was simplifying it. What they like to do is they go and foul the goalkeeper and then score into the empty net. It's all part of a routine. It's not a very attractive way to play football. I'd love to see it outlawed in terms of, because I think all they do is commit fouls on the goalkeeper and impede the goalkeeper. But there's nothing wrong with what they're doing based on the current rules. It's not football that I enjoy watching. But yeah, here's Palova carrying the ball forwards. Now Fox, ball into the area. But I think the takeaway is that those set-piece tactics won't work if you don't have a team that doesn't have those physical players. And Arsenal women don't have that. So it's not as simple as just you do this and then it works. You need to have players that can do what Arsenal men do on set pieces. Arsenal don't have the physicality to foul the goalkeepers. Here is Wubamoi. Mead inside to Caldente. Here's Mead. Ball slipped through, and Taylor does enough there just to see it back. And the offside flag goes up on Blackstone anyway. Paul says it's over 3 months since Mead scored or assisted. I don't like doing stats in months because, I mean, for the last 3 months there have been less games, and she's been out injured. So there's been fewer games because obviously we had international breaks and the Champions League as well for Arsenal. So they haven't played loads of games in the last 3 months. But I don't think she's done well enough this season either way. I completely agree. But yeah, I don't like the use of that statistic. Change for Arsenal then. Mariona Caldente makes way, and it's Caitlin Ford onto the pitch. So not sure who's gone where now. Jean-Francois making way as well, and it'll be Gabby Nunes on there. We haven't seen Gabby Nunes in a while in Aston Villa shirt, but is returning from injury. And what will be her last appearance at Villa Park as she looks set to move on this summer. Villa announced this week that she will move on at the end of her contract. And says, I'm always critical of how boring Arsenal's men's team is, but they won't care if they lift the trophy at the end. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the simple fact of it, isn't it? I don't like to talk too much about men's football on here, but they don't. Yeah, Arsenal won't care if they win the title. Forward ball in. Blackstenius missing at the near post. But I think two things can be true. I think often people say, oh, Arsenal boring, they don't deserve to win the title. I think they're two sort of opposing facts. Arsenal play boring football, they still deserve to win the title. Lloyd says Saka boring, Trossard Martinelli boring. Nah, they are. Even the biggest Arsenal fan can admit their attacking players are not enjoyable to watch. And their football's not enjoyable to watch. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Maltby. Now, it's effective, but it doesn't mean it's enjoyable to watch. It doesn't mean they don't deserve to win the title. They obviously do. If they pick up the most points by the end of the season, they deserve to win the title. But I don't think anyone can say they're not boring to watch. Fox, now to Uber Moy. Cadena. Now to Borba. Across to Uber Moy. Changing with Borba. Now into Ford. Ford round the corner into Fox. Fox carries inside, tries to slip it back down the line. That's lovely from Emily Fox. Ford will just about get there. Lifts it into the area, and Kelly can't quite get there. It's not dealt with fully by Villa, but there is a head injury here. Kelly missed the ball and seems to have caught the Aston Villa defender in the face. Mary Taylor will require some treatment here. I mean, I'm not really sure how Kelly hasn't been booked for that. Or it hasn't also been given as a foul. Because Kelly completely misses the ball and just catches Taylor in the face. I think it was actually the knee of Kelly rather than the foot. But yeah, still going to be a nasty one for Taylor. Lloyd says, I think European clubs should be trying to recruit foreign players from the NWSL. Who the hell wants to be in Trump's America right now? Yeah, I agree. I think we saw that a couple of years ago, or over the last few years, with players like Germa, who no one thought would make the move, making the move. We saw Sam Coffey make the move into the WSL as well with Man City. Obviously, nice one as well. I wouldn't be surprised if more did. Obviously, the hip rule has helped keep players there. And I guess if you look at a lot of the American nationals, they're not really in positions to move. Rodman's just signed a new contract and is managing an injury. Sophia Wilson's just come back from, she's just come back, hasn't she, from having a baby. I can't think of any other American nationals that are still playing in America. I don't look at their team enough. But a lot of them are either older. I mean, like Rose Lavelle's not going to move to the WSL now unless it's like a Morgan situation where she moves to a club for a huge paycheck that's not one of the top teams. But like Swanson, I don't think any of the top clubs would want her, and I don't think anyone lower down could afford her. So there's not really many that are in a position to move. But yeah, I think a lot of them have already made the move. I mean, you look at the midfield now for the USA of Johannes and Heaps are already in Europe. I mean, Heaps is going back, obviously, to the NWSL. We're seeing Kat Macaro's gone back to NWSL. So it does kind of go both ways. But I think there will be some big moves. I wouldn't be surprised if clubs were. I think big clubs should be looking at Manaka Matsukubo because is it the Courage she plays for? Either way, I've analysed a lot. I can't remember which team she plays for, which is poor, but I've watched a lot of that team play, and Matsukubo looks a cut above everyone else in that team. And I think big European sides should be all over her. Bander's one as well, but again, that's going to be a 2 million transfer. Lloyd says, I'm thinking Mina Tanaka and Katrine Berger. Berger's not coming back, I don't think. Unless Bayern could tempt her, I don't think Katrine Berger's come back. She's still really good, but yeah. All into the area. It's cleared away well. Mead. 4 minutes of additional time at the end of this game. As Arsenal try and find a fourth goal. The next attempt, though, is cleared away without issue by Aston Villa. Agnes says, wishing you all a nice remaining weekend in England. Sweden has lovely weather. That sounds lovely. England has incredibly hot weather at the moment. Not incredibly hot, warm weather at the moment, which is nice. It's just incredibly hot in this studio because we're still sort of halfway between summer and winter. Some days are absolutely freezing, especially when you come in here first thing. Some days are absolutely boiling, especially when you've been in here for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. But yeah, tomorrow we'll be better prepared. Ball in behind, blocked away well by Ruben Moy. And now Kendall. Losing out in the challenge. But Staniforth makes the big recovery and Aston Villa back in possession. Taylor goes back to D'Angelo, who loops it up in the air. Palova tries to bring it down. And now Marnham, Hines. Pass across to Cadena. Hermie says Swedish women player Schroeder is a hot name right now and attracting a lot of attention. Absolutely. Felicia Schroeder, I think, will be... I could see her being one of the first players to attract a £2 million transfer if she is to move this summer. You know, I think there are clubs that could go and sign her. If Barcelona had the money, that would be a fantastic move for them. Because I still don't think they've really got a backup. I know Paraluelo and Pina can both play through the middle, and they have got they've got a young Norwegian forward, I want to say. I can't remember her name now off the top of my head. Is it Fenger, I think? But they haven't really got a natural striker back up to Payor. Schroeder would be a fantastic option. City, if they do lose Shaw, I think should look at Schroeder. But if they're not going to pay Shaw $1 million a year, I can't see them paying £2 million up front for Schroeder or, as Fowler says, Banda. They're just not going to pay that. So it does make it very interesting to see what they're going to do. Chance for Hines. Cleared away well. A good save from D'Angelo again, who, despite their issues today, Aston Villa, I think D'Angelo's done quite well. Kelly has a shot from range. Not going to trouble the goalkeeper like that. But yeah, Schroeder's one of those where her slight problem is that if Chelsea do get Khadija Shaw, they're not going to make a move for her, most likely. Unless they're going to have one incredibly expensive transfer window. Leonez, I mean, maybe Leonez could if Hegerberg was to move on this summer, which is, I think, is a possibility. But even then, they've got Katoto and they've got Dumonet who could play there. But obviously Dumonet more natural as an attack midfielder. So yeah, potentially Schroeder. I mean, that would be ridiculous if Schroeder went to OL Leonez. But yeah. Ball down the line from Hijikata now with Hansen. Maltby. Hijikata back now to Maritz. Knocks it wide. And Salmon looks to take on Hines. Gets around it well. Ball across the box. And it's a good challenge in there from Ruben Moy. And that is the full-time whistle here at Villa Park. Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 3. A big victory for the Gunners on the road. And well, Aston Villa never really competed with them today. It was a comfortable victory. 3 is a little bit lower than it really could have been in this game. There were chances for Arsenal to make this a comprehensive win. Villa, 1 shot on target, 1 shot in 90 minutes. Nowhere near good enough from Villa today. Yes, they got a lot of players out injured, but they just didn't compete at all. Arsenal took full advantage, ruthless in front of goal, and, well, created some really nice chances, played some really nice football. Much better from Arsenal in this game. I think a few games this season, we haven't really seen that kind of performance, but this was better in front of goal. Russo really shone, combined nicely with Frida Marnham, and Arsenal take a deserved 3-0 victory. Tim Dane says 1 to 2 million a year for Shaw. It's being reported at $1 million a year is her demands, which City won't match, and Chelsea are willing to pay. So, which I find bizarre. City should just pay it, but I would be incredibly happy if she was to join Chelsea. Jeremy says, thanks for the stream. Thank you for tuning in, Jeremy Agnator. Likewise, thank you everyone that has joined me for this morning's stream. It's been great to be back with WSL action. We are back next weekend, obviously, with the end of the WSL season. WSL Final Day, I'm not going to be here for this stat stream, unfortunately, but Harry will be here to cover everything on the WSL Final Day, mainly focusing on the game between Chelsea and Manchester United. So that should be a great one. We're also back tomorrow, of course, with the Women's FA Cup semi-final. We've got a double-header stream, starting with the 12 o'clock kickoff as Liverpool take on Brighton, and the 3:30 game as Chelsea face Manchester City. Can't wait for that one, so make sure to join us here tomorrow for that double-header. Going to be a great day of Women's FA Cup action. And then, of course, we're into the end of the season. Next 3 weekends, we have got WSL Final Day, Champions League Final, FA Cup Final. Lots to look out for then on the channel over the next few weeks. We'll be rounding up the season as well in a few weeks' time and all that sort of content. So lots to look out for on the channel. And if you haven't already, go check out yesterday's video where for the first time we got to interview a professional women's manager. I sat down with Karen Hills, the Charlton manager, and spoke about their WSL2 campaign. So if you want to go and check that out, make sure to go and give that a watch. It was great to get invited to that. So if you could go and show support on that video, that would be great. And of course, as Lloyd says, make sure to leave a like as you leave. And if you are new, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more. That is all the self-promo done though. So now I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you all very, very much for watching. And I've just remembered I've actually got to press the stop streaming button. So thank you guys very much for watching. And we'll see you next time.